All right, now to our manganese solution problems. This is on page 172. It's chapter 4, number 34 in your book. Now, manganese, it's used for a lot of different processes, medical field, biomedical wise. It's involved in the synthesis of carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, fats, and DNA. It's not incorporated in those molecules, but it's involved in the process that makes those. Specifically, low amounts of manganese have been associated with brittle bones, and so they're often prescribed for people with brittle bones to help them build stronger bones. Outside of the biomedical industry, manganese phosphate is used to make steel more corrosion and rust proof. So lots of different uses for manganese. But when we pull manganese out of the ground, it's solid manganese. In order to use it for these applications, we have to make it into a solution. In order to do that, we have to turn manganese from solid manganese into its ionic form. And that's what you're doing with this problem. So we're going to go use our same steps to answer this problem. First thing is going to be to read and understand the background information. Identify what the question is asking you to find, writing out and balancing your chemical reaction. We will actually have to write out our chemical reaction here just to figure out exactly what's going on. Writing out your given information, and lastly, using your stoichiometry to connect the givens to your answer. Let's go ahead and start that now. Alright, the background information and the chemical reaction, we're going to do that all on one slide here. So a stock solution containing Mn2+, so that's manganese with a 2+ charge. That means normal neutral manganese has lost 2 electrons. And what happens when it loses 2 electrons, it develops this +2 charge, but it also makes it able to dissolve into a solution. Normal solid manganese, like pretty much all other metals, they don't dissolve because they don't have a charge, and so they can't be surrounded by water in order to be dissolved. So you're making a solution with manganese 2+, and you're dissolving 1.584 grams of pure manganese metal in nitric acid and diluting the final volume to 1 liter. And they tell you that they're making these other solutions from that. So this here on the right, that is manganese. It's a shiny metal, pretty abundant on the earth. And again, we use it for a lot of different things. Nitric acid we've dealt with before in tutorials, but it's actually a clear liquid. A lot of times you'll see nitric acid as a brown liquid, especially a fuming brown liquid, a lot of brown gas around it. But that's old nitric acid, or very highly concentrated nitric acid. Anything under, usually under 85% is going to be pretty clear. Above that, it starts to go up into the atmosphere, turn into a gas, and it turns brown. But old nitric acid is brown because it starts to break down. Nitric acid is a very, very strong acid. In fact, it's so strong that it basically makes other acids act like bases. So when we have nitric acid in the classroom, we actually have to store it in a separate container away from all the other acids, which can be stored together. So what does this mean? Let's go ahead and write out our chemical reaction of what's going on. First of all, we're taking manganese metal and we're using nitric acid. So we're taking manganese metal, that's solid manganese, and using nitric acid to make it into manganese with 2+ charge. So we have this right here. Solid manganese, a solution of nitric acid, is being used to turn it into Mn2+. That's all you really need to know. But in case you're curious, the full chemical reaction for this is taking solid manganese, adding it to nitric acid, and that forms manganese nitrate, or manganese 2 nitrate, and releases hydrogen gas in a bubbling reaction. Alright, now to identify what the question is. So they give you all this information, stock solution containing a solution A, solution B, solution C. Right at the very bottom there, this tells you what you're trying to calculate. You're calculating concentrations of 4 different solutions. That's stock, A, B, and C solutions. So that's what you need to find out. Concentrations of these 4 different solutions. Now, what is concentration? Well, we know that concentration in chemistry is expressed either in molarity or molality. And you have other forms of concentration, things like percentages. But really, molarity, molality, these are your main ways of calculating concentration in chemistry. So, they don't specify, though. What do we use? Do we use molarity or do we use molality? First of all, what is the difference? Well, molarity is moles of solute over liters of solution. Molality is moles of solute over kilograms of solvent. You'll notice that the numerator is the same as the denominator that's different, but that still doesn't tell us which one do we calculate here, molarity or molality, when they're asking for concentration. Well, since the numerators are the same, that really doesn't affect our choice. What does affect our choice is the denominator. If we're able to figure out how many liters of solution we have, we can calculate molarity. If we're able to figure out how many kilograms of solvent we have, we'll calculate molality. So let's go ahead and get to our givens and see which one we are going to calculate, either molarity or molality. So write down all our given information. Definitely got to read all the words here. So a stock solution containing manganese 2 was prepared by dissolving 1.584 grams of pure manganese metal in nitric acid and diluting to a final volume of 1 liter. We wrote the chemical reaction here earlier, so hopefully you have that as a reference as for what's going on with all these words. The following solutions were then prepared by dilution. For solution A, 50 milliliters of stock solution was diluted to 1,000 milliliters. For solution B, 10 milliliters of solution A was diluted to 250 milliliters. And for solution C, 10 milliliters of solution B was diluted to 500 milliliters. So we have 4 different solutions here, and that's how we're going to split up our given information. We've got our stock solution, solution A, solution B, and solution C. So we're going to split up our givens based on which of the 4 solutions they're talking about. So for our stock solution here, what do we know about our stock solution? First of all, we know that 1.584 grams of pure manganese metal is used to make that stock solution. So we're going to have that there. Next up, we know that we've diluted that to a final volume of 1 liter. Second piece of information we know about the stock solution. And that's really all they tell us about the stock solution. Next up, we take that stock solution and we use that solution to make solution A. So we take 50 milliliters of the stock solution, and then we dilute it to 1,000 milliliters. So what is that? That's this conversion factor here. 50 milliliters of stock solution, we dilute that down into 1,000 milliliters of solution A. So there's another conversion factor there, and we'll be able to use that later. Okay, on to solution B. So what do they tell us about solution B? Well, they take 10 milliliters of solution A and dilute it down to 250 milliliters. So another conversion factor we have there, 10 milliliters of solution A into 250 milliliters of solution B. So you're taking 10 milliliters of this solution and you're adding water until you hit 250 milliliters. Onwards. Solution C, our last solution. We take 10 milliliters of solution B and dilute it down to 500 milliliters of solution C. So that's our last conversion factor. Okay. So there's all our given information. Now to plan our math here. So we know that manganese is being added to nitric acid, and that turns our manganese into manganese 2, or manganese with the 2+ charge, and that makes it go from solid to aqueous. So that's one piece of information. That is our chemical reaction. Now, you write out this chemical reaction and you balance it. Nitric acid is kind of separate here. We just balance the reactants and the products just 1 to 1. So that's nice. So what else do we know? Well, we know that we have liters of each solution, which means we're going to be calculating molarity. Now, if we had a density, we may be able to calculate molality, but we are given liters of each of those solutions. So molarity is going to be the easiest thing to calculate. So for each of those solutions, if we're calculating molarity, we need to figure out how many moles of manganese 2 are in that solution and divide that by the total liters of that solution.